let's start our debate. Let's start our debate. And here, our debate is related to the socialism and capitalism. Jefferson will defend the socialism point of view, and Domenica will defend the capitalism point of view, the point of view of the capitalism, right? So let's start here. You, Domenica, can you start your introduction about this subject, please?
Okay. Good night. Good evening. Good evening. I am Domenica. I am 32 years old, and today I am in favor of capitalism because I believe that this political regime, socialism, don't work. I don't believe that in this ideology, political ideology. I don't believe. Don't work.
Okay, okay, okay. And very nice. So I will start my introduction. Well, my name is Jefferson. I'm 33 years old. I live here in Campinas. I am here to defend the socialism, the best regime in the world. And I will show my point of views and all, let's say, my all the numbers in the world that proves that we need the socialism in all the countries around the world. Okay, so that's my introduction. Very nice. So my first question for you is, if you don't believe in socialism, what are the measures that you think that should be taken by our government to solve our country's problems? I mean, the social problems that we have in Brazil. What are the measures that the government should take to solve for example, the problem that we have in education, in healthcare? What is the measures that you think that our government should take?
Uh, Teacher, sorry, the measures.
Yes, measures. Oh, sorry, measures means medidas.
Oh,
What are the
measures.
measures? Yes, what are the measures that you think that our government should take to solve our, let's say, social problems if socialism is not the best, let's say, idea in your point of view?
Um, in our country,
In our country.
oh, generally in our countries.
Yeah.
Uh, First, I don't think that um, these problems is because capitalism regime. You know, I think that capitalism regime is important for development of the country. Uh, but I think that the problems uh, of our country, for example, I don't think that education problems in education, poverty, it's not problem of because we don't follow socialism regime. Is the other problems, you know, is the problems in the corruption, you know, um, things that, how can I say, social programs don't use it the right way, money don't be used the right way, you know, these things. I don't think that our problems is because that we don't follow this socialism regime. I think that if we follow that socialism regime, it's be worse, you know. I think that
Oh,
worse.
okay.
Oh my God, my dog.
Okay. So, okay, I understood what you said. But here, if we think let's say, the regime or the ideology of the socialism, if applied in the correct way, is the only regime or is the only ideology that will work for the poor. If we just see the capitalism ideology, it says that everything should be privatized. It should be all from, let's say, not controlled by the government, but controlled by business. And business only think about money. They only think about, let's say, enrich themselves and not, let's say, give things to the people. If, in my opinion, with the capitalism, the poor don't have opportunity to grow, because if they do not have money, they will not have things. Now, with the socialism, people would have an opportunity to get something, would have an opportunity to get something that the capitalism would not be able to give them, because capitalism is for rich people and not for poor people. What do you think?
Um, I don't. I think that if you note all the countries that apply the socialism regime are countries very poor with very inequality, very inequality in this way that all 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 get to the government, you know, and the people get nothing with nothing.
Mhm.
When the government say that socialism is to share with of if all the peoples, you know, for equality, uh, it's I don't believe, because if you see these countries, Cuba, North Korea, uh, Venezuela,
Mhm.
Venezuela,
Venezuela.
Venezuela,
Venezuela.
are countries that the government say that you don't, you cannot have uh, these things. I can't. You know, I don't believe that in this regime.
Okay. I understood what you said. But when you say that Cuba, North Korea, and Venezuela are bad examples of socialism, I can tell you that countries like Haiti, countries like Sierra Leone, countries like Mali, okay, and country like Malawi are capitalist countries, and these are the, let's say, the poorest countries in the world. So they are capitalists and they are poor. And if you are saying that the socialist countries are poor, the most of the capitalist countries are poor. The most of them. Only few capitalist countries are rich. The European ones and Canada and the United States. And even in these countries, you can find a lot of inequality. For example, in the United States, the index of inequality is huge, is big. Okay, there are almost 32 million poor in the United States. 32 million poor in the United States. It's more than the population of Peru, for example, almost, okay? And it's more than the population of Chile. So a lot of people living under the poverty line, okay? Poverty line, under the poverty line, do you know?
Linha da pobreza.
Yes, living under the poverty line in the United States, the richest country in the world. So, is this a model of economy for you? Having more than 32 million people living under the poverty line in the richest country in the world. And so what I'm trying to say is that the capitalism is not a dream. There are a lot of poor in, let's say, these rich countries that you are speaking about. And in some of these socialist countries that you mentioned, you can find good education, you can find good healthcare, better than the healthcare and education that we have in Brazil. For example, in Cuba. In Cuba, they have better education, better healthcare, and this is what the poorest people in our country want. The poorest people in our country, they want a good education, they want a good health care, okay? And the people in Cuba, they have it. There is a sentence that I heard, and this is the sentence. There are a lot of people living in the streets in the world, and no one of them is in Cuba. No one of them, because all of them, they have houses to live. So, what is your point of view about it? About the poverty that exists in the United States, in Europe, and about the good quality of education and healthcare that exists in Cuba?
Firstly, when you mention these countries, I see Sierra Leone, Mali, Malawi. If you know these countries, the capitalist countries, have one thing. How can I say in common?
In common, in common.
In common, the socialism countries, they are ruled for dictators.
Okay, by dictators.
By dictators, you know, it's very corrupt countries. You know, the education, the employees, the health don't arrive in the people.
Mm-hmm.
Because these countries, the dictators don't think in the people.
Mm-hmm.
And the United States, sorry, how can I say comparação?
Comparison. Comparison.
In comparison, from Chile,
Mm-hmm.
Chile is the size.
Okay.
The United States is very huge.
Okay.
I think that in United States have some inequality because the preconceito.
Prejudice.
How can I say?
Prejudice.
Some prejudice. Some a group of people. These people, I imagine that are people like immigrants.
Immigrants.
immigrants, the mostly should the mostly must be immigrants. I imagining, and the United States don't have how can I say, social programs for to immigrants. You know, I think that the most people that que sofrem,
Who suffers?
who suffers are these peoples that United States don't look for these peoples. You know, I think
Okay.
that
Okay, okay. Very nice, very nice. So now your question to me.
okay. I am okay, okay.
Okay, okay.
um, so, okay. Oh, let's start with this. All the crimes that apply the socialism, the government, these countries don't let the people to do things that this policy doing, like to travel, to eat good things. These people don't have the freedom of liberty.
Liberty.
Liberty. What do you think about this?
Okay. I think this. One thing is the ideology, and the other thing is the politic. And the other thing is the politicians. And this, I think, even for the capitalism and the socialism. For example, you gave me some examples. I gave you some examples of bad capitalist countries, okay, with very poor indexes. And you gave me back some other bad socialist countries with bad indexes. But what they have in common are dictatorships. Dictatorships means ditaduras. So we don't have, or we mustn't blame. Blame means culpar. We mustn't blame the ideology just because of the politic, just politicians. Not we don't must. Oh, sorry. We must not blame the ideology only because of the leader in the country. We must analyze, in my point of view, the ideology for us to see if this is a good ideology or not. And what I think is that the socialism had not been applied by, let's say, had not been applied correctly in any of the nations around the world because let's say the time that the socialism had been applied to these countries, they were considered dictatorships. So if we apply the ideology of socialism in, let's say, countries that are not linked with corruption, it will work. And it what shows, for example, some countries in Europe, because we always think that the most countries in Europe they are capitalist countries, but they really are. But many of the index, many of the social programs that some of these countries apply for their population, these programs are socialist programs. For example, in Sweden, Norway, Finland, Denmark, they are capitalist countries in economy, but let's say in the society, they are socialist countries because they apply the money that the government receives from the population through the taxes. They apply in their population. So this is socialism. So, for example, I am telling you that these 5 countries that I mentioned right now are socialist countries, but they are socialist countries in the most important area for their population, the area of social benefits, because someone who live in Norway, for example, they don't need to pay for the university that they take. They don't need to pay for the health care that they have. So if they go to a hospital, they will be attended normally, right? They will have support of everything. So that's what I'm telling you. Many of these capitalist countries that you are talking about, they have a lot of things related to the socialism ideology and vision. Um, so what I'm trying to say is that if the country is not corrupt, the socialism will work. And what are the examples? These examples that I'm talking about, even in Germany, okay, Germany had been governed by a kind of socialist president, Angela Merkel, and a lot of, let's say, index in Germany had been upgraded because of her government. She is known throughout the world because of her leadership. She, for example, the nation organizations leaders, they invited Angela Merkel to take part in the nation organizations leadership because she is one of the greatest leader around the world and she is socialist. She is socialist. Okay, so that's what I think. I don't think that socialism didn't work. I think that socialism had been applied in countries that uh, they are considered corrupt, they are considered dictatorships, and the ideology didn't work there because of this. Even in Haiti, Sierra Leone, Malawi, Mali, Mauritania, all those countries that are considered, let's say, capitalist, the capitalism is not working there because they are corrupt. So we, in my point of view, we must give an opportunity to our country to be a socialist country for us to see if this will work or not. But we must choose and elect the correct socialist leader for him or for her to be able to apply the socialism as it should be applied, like in Finland, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Iceland. So all these countries are considered socialists, but they are socialists in social problems. What do you think?
Um, Teacher, 1 second.
Okay, okay.
Sorry, my dog. um,
Okay, no problem, no problem.
um, I think that the leaders, right? Sorry, right? Leaders, socialism leaders. I think that these leaders, they can be socialism ideology. They believe in this ideology of the socialism, but they all day Angela Merkel. I think that now is the other is the another, right? Angela Merkel is isn't, né? Right?
Yes, they changed it. They
Yeah.
changed it.
Uh, but Angela Merkel, I think that Emmanuel Macron, right? uh, they speak about socialism ideology, but they live in capitalism regime. You know, they live in this regime. Uh, they apply capitalism. regime in their countries. They have the ideology, but don't want to leave this ideology. If you notice, you know, I think that some government, some policy, some
politicians,
these politicians that uh, that saying in that saying who believed in ideology socialism, they say it, but they don't want to live with it. You know, I think that they want to apply this ideology just to the people. I think that yes, no, not for for them.
For themselves.
For themselves, you know. Uh, I think that the capitalism regime is important. So the government recognized this fact. You know, when you search capitalism and socialism, you find that socialism is a ideology, and when you see capitalism, you see a fact. How can I say empirical?
Empiric.
You know, work. We see the capitalism in all, you know, in all the environment. You know, it is always capitalism. If we think, you know, and socialism, I think that when it was created, I think that was created to good thing, but when the passed to hands of this government, this change, you know, this thing and he right. How can I say this?
Rewrite
this ideology, you know, because these countries that apply socialism regime agem. How can I say agem?
They act. The verb agir is act.
So they act the same way. So they all understand wrong the socialism. All they don't understand, you know, the socialism because this government they act in the same way to the people, their people. I think that.
Okay. I don't believe that these politicians or these leaders they all, for example, they don't know what socialism is. I don't believe that. I believe that they are corrupt. So if they are corrupt, they will think about themselves. Okay, they will always think about themselves. So they are corrupt for this reason. The socialism in their countries will never work because they are corrupt. Like those countries that we mentioned that are capitalists, and they don't work too, right? The regime, the capitalism regime, is not working for those countries too. For the most of countries in the world, the capitalism regime is not working too. It's not working either. Sorry, the most of the countries in the world, the capitalism regime is not working either. So I don't think that it's something it has to do with the socialism. I think it has to do with bad people, corrupt people, right? With corrupt people. Because as we mentioned, those countries, the Nordic countries, Sweden, Norway, okay, Finland, the North, Iceland. For these countries, for example, the socialism for the people is working. They are capitalist countries, yes, because they have many companies, they have many business, and the business are not only in the power of the government. So they are really, they really are capitalist countries. But the, let's say, their way of thinking about the population just brought this mindset, the socialism mindset, to these governments, and they now know they've been investing in the population since 30, 40 years ago, and for this reason they are considered good countries to live. There are many countries around. There are some countries around the world that they are considered rich countries, but they are not so good to live. If you go, for example, to Spain, it's a rich country, but there are a lot of unemployed people in Spain because the capitalism there is not working properly. Or in Greece, Greece is a developed country, but there are a lot of unemployed people there. So, and there are a lot of people living under the poverty in these countries too. So it's not only rich countries, for example, these countries that I mentioned, they are more capitalists than the Nordic countries. Maybe what the Nordic countries are doing right now, they are investing money in their population, is this the thing that we should do. In capitalism, we couldn't do this. In capitalism, we couldn't do this because capitalism, they preach, in capitalism, they preach or they say, okay, that everything should be privatized. In the United States, for example, if you don't have money, you can't go to school. If you don't have money, you can't go to the hospital, to hospitals, right? It's very serious what's happening in the United States right now because many people die because they do not have money. They don't have money to go to hospital. Many people, many children are not having, let's say, classes because their parents don't have money enough to pay the school. Even if we are speaking about immigrants, right? We are speaking about immigrants, but they are American. They are living there, so the USA government should care about them, and for the population too. Many people in the United States died because of COVID-19 because they didn't have the condition to go to hospitals to have the treatment that they had to have, right? And they died, right? The United States is the country that has the highest death index for COVID-19 in the world. Just because of this. Why? They are rich, but they don't invest in their population. There are many rich countries that they don't invest in their population. And there are some rich countries, capitalist countries, that they are capitalist in business, in economy things or economic things. But when it comes to the social area, social benefits, so we can see that they are socialists. They are socialists, like in Canada. Canada is a socialist country. It's not only a capitalist country. It's a capitalist country when it comes to economy. But when we're speaking about let's say, we are speaking about social benefits for their population, they aren't capitalist countries, they are socialist countries, because they invest more in their population, and everything's free, okay, for their population. So they have good healthcare. They have. Why don't you think that we, for example, why don't we hear about good healthcare in the United States for all the population? Why don't we hear about this? We don't hear about this because they don't have. They have an excellent healthcare system, but for the rich people, for those who have money, for those who don't have money, they can't even go to hospitals because they will not be treated. So what I think is that those countries that you mentioned that are very good countries, and because of the capitalism, to be honest with you, it's not because of the capitalism. Canada, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, they are more, let's say, known around the world because of their let's say, social life, social life, because of the socialist, let's say, socialist programs that these governments implanted in their countries. It's because of the socialist programs, not because of the capitalism problems. Because the capitalism would say no, public schools, no, public hospitals, no, public blah blah blah, no. This is what the capitalism says, right? This is what the capitalism says. And the socialism says no, no, everything is public. This is the only system that says that the, let's say, the education, the healthcare system should be public and not privatized only for the people who have money to have access on it, right? So that's what I think. And what do you think about it in specific? About privatization and no privatization system? Privatized system and a not privatized system, because privatized system is the capitalism that says that everything should be privatized, and the socialism doesn't say it. What do you think about it?
I think that some things uh, should be privatized, like public transport.
Mhm.
You know, is very very bad. It's very a lot. You
Okay.
know, and I say to you, in São Paulo, have one line, yellow line is
Privatized.
privatized, and this line is the only that's working right.
Mhm.
You know, the others is very bad.
Mhm.
So I think that in this point, I think that some things should be privatized. Something, how can I say, services, work,
Service.
services, public service.
Public
You know,
services.
like the sport,
Mhm.
these things. You know, but the other things, schools, hospitals, no, these things, no, no.
Mhm.
But I think that uh, until these things working with the capitalism money, because these things don't working to the money, the government don't get money for these things working with our money that, how can I say, come to the capitalism.
Mhm.
So the government don't I think that our country Brazil, for example.
Mm-hmm.
These things that they say work with socialism, SUS, you
Mm-hmm.
know, these things don't work with money, the government. The government don't put money in these things. These things working with our money,
Okay.
your money, my money,
Mm-hmm.
So I think this, the government say that these things is socialism idea here in our country, you know, but don't is this way. It's
Mm-hmm.
just idea because to work these things needed to capitalism in our country. Uh, this point, speak about our country, you know. I see this way because the public services don't work,
Okay.
don't work, you know.
Okay. Okay. Here, what you said something very interesting about this privatization to privatize everything. What I can see about it is this: if we privatize, uh, the most of the most of times we have a better service, right? A better service. But we have, let's say, all the payment, all the costs for the population will raise. Will raise. Raise means aumentar, right? Will raise.
Right.
And well, the richest, let's say the richest people in the middle class will be okay with this. But the problem here is the poor population, because, for example, when we are speaking about the privatization of the public transport, we're speaking about, for example, to privatize something that let's say that the poorest people use every day to go to their work, to go to their work. So if there is an increase or if there is a raise on the prices, the poorest people will be the most affected one. Yeah? And that's my point of view. If we privatize everything, the middle class and the richest people in our country will be okay, but the poorest people in our country will not. For example, if you get your car and go, for example, and have a trip uh, in our state, in the state of São Paulo, you're gonna pay a lot because let's say, our highways are very expensive to be, let's say, well, for us to drive. Okay, very, very expensive for us to drive. If we, for example, there here in our state, there are a lot of road toll. Okay, there are a lot of here road toll. Do you know this? Road toll is like pedágio,
Oh,
pedágio. Okay, there are a lot of road tolls in our country, in our state, and they are very expensive for the population to pay. There are road tolls here in our state that we have to pay almost 20 reais for us to go through it and for us to come back. For example, for us here who live in Campinas, for us to go to the beach, it's very expensive because of the road toll, and they are privatized, right? At the beginning of the privatization, they were not so expensive. They were not so expensive because that's the way that things works. They want to privatize everything, and then when they privatize everything, the owners of the companies that bought those services, they will raise the prices, and the poor people, they can't afford for it, right? And if you go, for example, to Minas Gerais, they have good roads. They have good roads. They have good highways. And these highways are not privatized, right? Now, Romeu Zuma, he wants to privatize everything, right? But it's not the most of the highways that exists in the state of Minas Gerais. These roads are not, these highways, they are not privatized, and they are good. And the road tolls in Minas Gerais, you will pay R$ 1, R$ 2 the most. Yes. So I think that there are many ways to do things, and that the government can take care of these services for the population to pay less. Right? Because here, I think that we pay a lot of taxes, and if we privatize everything, we will still pay a lot of taxes because the government will never, let's say, decrease or reduce the tax that we pay. They will never. So if we only privatize, we will pay a lot of taxes that, like, as you said, that we really pay a lot of taxes for the government. We will pay a lot of taxes, and the services that the government should be responsible to provide us will not be provided because everything will be privatized. So that's my concern. If they privatize things, we should not be paying taxes the way that we pay, because where will this money go? This money will go to the pocket of those politicians, corrupt politicians, senators, congressmen, president. Yes, the money will go to them. So I am a little concerned on this point. Even really, this is my really opinion about it. Because if we privatize everything, where is our money going to? Where is our money going to? Yes, because we pay for this. We pay for this. We pay for our government to give us health, and the government is not giving us health. We pay for our government here, our capitalist country, right? We pay for our country to give us education, and the education is not being provided. We pay for our government to give us good transport service, right? Or public service, and it's not being provided. So if we just say, no, let's privatize everything, uh, all those things will be privatized, and we will be paying taxes like we are paying right now. So and then when everything is privatized, they will raise the prices, and who will lose? Our population, ourselves. There are some countries, for example, in Luxembourg, that the public transport is for free, for free. The buses in Luxembourg, they work for free for their population, right? Their population pay a lot. Their population pays a lot taxes, okay? Like, for example, in Norway, in Sweden, in Finland, in Denmark, they pay a lot of taxes. The country that most pay taxes in the world is Norway or Denmark, I think. One of them is the country that pay the most taxes in the world. But the taxes are invested in their population. And this is socialism. The socialism just get the money. Okay, they get the money because in socialism, in socialist countries, they also have taxes, but they should be investing back in their population, especially the poorest ones, right? So what do you think, for example, what happens in these countries like Luxembourg? Because this is socialism. The Luxembourg is a capitalist country, but this thing about, for example, their transport public service is, let's say, a socialist idea. This is a socialist idea. This is not a capitalist idea. They always say that everything should be privatized. But what do you think about what happens in Luxembourg?
Luxembourg think that the corruption is less. How can I say? Short.
It is small, okay? The corruption here, the corruption index, okay, is small.
The corruption index is small. You know.
Our corruption rate, sorry, corruption rate is better.
Better index. That
Uh-huh.
okay.
Here,
The
corruption rate.
corruption rate is small in Luxembourg. You say right?
Yes, Luxembourg.
Luxembourg. You know, the population pay takes rates
Okay, rate, huh?
right rate, but they see the services, public services working, security, transport, education, health. They see where the money are doing, you know, and but I think that in our country, no, the problem is the capitalism. The problem is the corruption. I agree with your point that privatize it, all the things, and the poor people are suffer, you know. So I think that in our country should be different. Uh, if ideological, the capitalism, but if these things, this money invest, how can I say, investir?
Invest. Yes, invest.
Invest, how can I say investment?
Investment.
Investment, right? Lack of investment in these things. The problem is not of capitalism, you know. The problem is a lack of this investment in these things, in the people, in the public service of quality.
Okay.
We don't,
That. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry. No,
uh, we don't have, we don't see, like you say, we don't see where our money are going. In this country, in these countries, is different because they see. So this problem is not capitalism because they apply capitalism. The ideology is socialism, but they apply capitalism, right? But they don't have corruption, and we have many corruption. Our problem is corruption, not capitalism. I believe that we need capitalism, mainly for our country, for our development, you know. But it's difficult applying in our country uh, just ideology, socialism idea because it don't work, because it's very corrupt in our country, our government, our policies.
Politicians. Politicians.
Politicians, you know. I think this way.
Okay. In my point of view, I think that, for example, what you said about capitalism is what I can say about socialism too. For example, in those countries that socialism they try to apply the socialism, the leaders of those countries were all corrupt, right? So if I think if we had an opportunity to have no corrupt person, no corrupt leader, for our country, for example, and if this leader applies the socialism, I think it would work, right? Because what didn't work in the past was the corruption in those countries, in those socialist countries. And when we are speaking about, for example, um, socialism bring money for the government, and the government invest money in their population. This second portion, invest money in their population, this is socialism. So if you want or not, there will be socialism in a country that the population lives good. For example, there will be, because if there is if there are public schools, if there are public universities, if there are public health care or public hospitals in a country, or public uh, public transport in a country, in a rich country, in a capitalist country, it means that this is socialism too. This has a little of socialism, because the capitalism, they don't say they say that all these things should be privatized. This is one of the most let's say one of the most or the most important idea for the capitalist countries, or for the capitalist people, for the capitalist writers, is to privatize everything. If we are saying that something should not be privatized, this is a socialist idea, not a capitalist idea. Capitalist idea, they will always say that everything should be privatized. Well, so in my point of view, if a rich country is a good country to live, like Canada and Nordic countries and all other countries, for example, in some other countries in Europe, it is because they applied a lot of the socialist ideologies in their government, or in their, let's say, in their system, for their population to receive something good for everything, right, that they have. So that's what I think, right? Even though they say that they are capitalist countries, they have at least a little of socialist in their way of doing things, in their system, right? The good countries, right? The good countries, I mean Canada, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Finland, and United States of America, they are not considered a good, excellent country to live, just because they really apply the capitalism. They really apply in everything. Everything is privatized. So if you have money, you will live. If you don't have money, you will die. If you have money, you will have a good education. If you don't have money, you won't have any education at all. So that's what I think, right? Did you understand? Um, so, what is your last conclusion on this?
Um, Think about our country.
Yes, you can speak in general or our country. You choose. You choose.
Um, my conclusion is in our country is difficult think on government with uh, ideology, socialism ideology, because the ideology is good, but in our country, when we think a government, socialism government, is very bad because they don't apply uh, the right way this ideology, you know. And like example, when my mom lived in Aracaju, she helped a woman, Cubana,
Okay, Cuban woman.
Cuban woman. She she lived in my mom's house for a time. She was uh, engineer, chemistry engineer, but here in Brazil, she was teacher. She teach in the college in Aracaju, chemistry. And she told me that she come to Brazil with a program, program, and in that time, she would have a program that Brazil and Cuba. Do you remember?
I remember exchange students, right?
Teachers, yes, teachers and doctors,
Doctors.
you know,
Yeah.
and come many Cubans to Brazil
Yeah.
with this program, and she came with this program to Brazil, but she told me that the her salary 80% uh, got to the government.
Yeah.
Government got 80% her salary, and she don't want to return to Cuba, but she have fear because her son uh, was in Cuba, you know. So that told me that she did go uh, to Cuba because her son
Mm-hmm.
was in Cuba, and he don't he cannot get out Cuba, you know, because her mom don't got in Cuba. She don't um, she cannot get out. You know,
Okay.
the government control the people and all the things, the population, the government control. It's so she told me that she was Havana,
Uh-huh. She lived in Havana.
Havana, and she told me that she loved Havana, her
Mm-hmm.
people, but she hates the government.
Okay.
But she don't. Um, she cannot say. I don't know. Cannot say right
Mm-hmm.
about government. So the things I think that my conclusion is Brazil apply a regime, political regime. Uh, how can I say? Should ficaria? Sorry.
Ficaria.
Yes.
All depends. Would get, for example,
Would get this way, Brazil,
would be this way.
would be this way,
Uh-huh.
like Cuba.
Okay.
Oh, because our governments,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think that the ideology is good, but in the hands of our government, don't work.
Okay, okay. Very nice, very nice, very nice. Congratulations for your conversation. Congratulations for your performance. That was very nice. The points of view and also especially the English. That was amazing. Congratulations. I liked it very much. And that was a very nice debate. Congratulations for your performance.